Hey everyone, I'm here in our shop today to take you through a Freehub service. This is just a simple service. We're not taking any hub bearings out. That would be a different video altogether. This is just going to be what you do when you notice that your Freehub sounds a little bit loud, or if you've been riding in inclement weather or poor conditions, or if when you push your bike you notice that the Freehub doesn't necessarily freewheel, that maybe your pedals keep turning single speeds aside. That often happens with single speeds, and it's because there's very little drag from the derailleur. But just some signs that your Freehub might need a service, or if it's just been a while. It's not a hard service to do, so I recommend that you watch this and then give it a shot. Okay, so tools that we're going to use today. Just stuff that I like to have on hand. Some lint-free paper towels. A pair of Nip-X pliers. You can use other pliers if you want. I've just found that these work the best. A tiny screwdriver if you are working on any type of pawl system hub. This can help you to replace pawls that may pop out while you're disassembling and reassembling. If you're using a DT Swiss hub, as I'll show you in a minute, this is not really necessary. A rubber-ended mallet, preferably one with your logo on it. Some sort of degreaser. This is carb cleaner. You're just going to use a little bit of this to take old grease off. You can use any degreaser you want. Just know that it can be harsh on your hands, so I'll usually wear rubber gloves for this, or just skip the degreaser altogether if it's really not all that dirty inside of the Freehub. And then some sort of lubrication. And this is going to be specific to your hub. The manufacturer is going to tell you what you need to use. Demond makes several different formulations. Some hubs can use Fill Tenacious oil, including new Industry 9 Hydra hubs. This is not recommended for the older Torch model hubs because this can make the little springs inside not be able to spring, and then your hub will not actually grab when you start to pedal forward, or only some of the pawls will grab, and that is not good for your hub. If you are servicing a DT Swiss hub, they have their own brand of grease. And this is what I put into Industry 9 Torch hubs. This is our old lube that we had made for just riding along called Unicorn Shit. It's not very good chain lube because it's a little bit thicker than your standard chain lube. But it actually works pretty well in hubs. It's not too thick for Torch hubs, and it is not so thin that it just runs straight out, like if you use something like Triflow, which is a very thin, watery, not watery, but a very thin chain lube. So what I have here is my Reynolds wheel off of my gravel bike. You can hear that the sound of the pawls inside the Freehub are it's a very sharp click. Also, when I push this bike, when the wheel's in the bike, this will actually turn and let the pedals turn instead of freewheeling, so I know that it's just got a little bit too much resistance. So, first step, and this is for any hub that has a press-on end cap. I'm going to take my Nip-X pliers. I'm going to put pressure on the cassette so that this whole thing doesn't pop off. Then I'm going to grab this end and just pull on it until it unseats from the end of the axle. And you may or may not notice when that actually happens, but you're just going to give it a good tug. And then you should be able to lift the entire cassette and Freehub off. And what you can see is that this Freehub, which is an Industry 9 torch, is just kind of black and gooey. So I could definitely take all of these little pawls and springs out and clean this. However, I recommend that if you have an Industry 9 torch hub with these little with the little coil springs instead of the leaf springs like a Hydra hub has, don't take these apart unless you have a bag of these springs at your fingertips. I don't know where my extra springs are. I know I have some around here somewhere, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to spend the half hour looking for them. So I am not going to take this any further apart than it is. I'm just going to take a rag with a little bit of this degreaser on it and wipe as best I can. It's going to do just fine. I do this on a regular basis, so I don't really need right now to deep clean this. What's in here is just old oil. It's not dirt, it's not grit, it's not water, so stripping it all the way down right now is not 100% necessary. So, like I said, I've got gloves on because this degreaser is pretty hard on your hands. I'm just going to spray a little bit on this rag. And you would never want to spray something that's high pressure like this straight onto the hub, because you don't want to get it inside the seal of this bearing. You don't want degreaser in there. That's not good for the grease that's inside. So I'm just going to take this and just wipe all around here to get the as much of the old grease off as I can. So as you can see, much cleaner. There's definitely still some old grease kind of behind the pawls, but like I said, this is just kind of a quick clean. Those little springs, the reason why I don't take these apart unless I have some extras around is those springs are exactly the color of everything in your workshop. So wherever you lose one, whether it's on your workbench or your floor, no matter what, you will most of the time not find it. And if you don't have an extra around, then you can't put your hub together until you get more. So do your best to not take these apart unless you have a couple of extras. They're very inexpensive or free from Industry 9. You get some extras when you get a wheel set. Don't throw those away. Hold on to those. But like I said, not going to take this apart because I don't have my extra springs right here with me right now. So next, lubrication and reassembly. So I'm going to use the same rag that I was just using that has this carb cleaner on it and wipe out this inside part of the Freehub body, the hub shell part. Again, you don't want to spray cleaner directly in there because there's a bearing right there around the axle, and you don't want to just jam carb cleaner or degreaser or anything down into that and dissolve that grease that's in there. So just a wipe out. You know, if you wanted to get really detailed with it, you could take a toothbrush or, you know, a Q-tip or something and clean out between all of those teeth. Like I said, this is just some old grease that's in here. If you had, you know, been in some kind of a situation where you rode in really abrasive mud or sand or something, and it was inside here, you would want to take that extra time to take all of that out. But a good wipe, and this is nice and clean. I'm going to take my unicorn shit lube and just drip some down in there. It does not take much. So you can see just a little puddle down in there. Hold the wheel at, you know, not quite flat, but not quite vertical, somewhere around a 45-degree angle to keep that oil in there. And then you're going to take your Freehub with the cassette on it. I kind of give it a little push to make sure that those are all seated in their little home. Turn it over and slide your cassette back down. And then you're going to just give it a turn, and you'll feel it and hear it seat back down in there. And then you push, and if you don't get a nice little snap, you can take your mallet and just give it a little tap. Just a little tap. It's not a big whack or anything. Just a little tap on the end, and you'll hear the difference now of how it sounds. Compared to when we started. So that is i9 torch hub service. Hydra service is even easier because you don't have those little coily, springy things. So if you have a Hydra hub, it's exactly the same way, except when you take it apart, you're going to see leaf springs inside. And you can use a thicker oil like tenacious oil, and that can actually make your hub a little quieter. Some people don't like the noise of i9 hubs. It doesn't bother me at all. But if you don't like the noise, you can use either like a Demontech grease, or you can use tenacious oil, something a little bit thicker, and it's going to work fine inside that hub. You just can't use those things inside of a torch hub because of the little coil springs. So next, I'm going to go over DT Swiss hub service. Okay, next I'm going to show you a DT Swiss wheel. This is Matt's wheel off of his Diverge. So we'll give it a listen as a before. It actually sounds pretty good. I wouldn't think this needs service. It doesn't get ridden that often. It doesn't get ridden in the rain, and it's been, probably since the last time it's been serviced, he's been using it mostly as a trainer bike. So really, I don't expect to find much in here other than just some old grease that's probably kind of black. But we're going to take it apart and clean it anyway, just so that you know what to expect if you need to take your DT Swiss hub apart. Alright, so just like last time, first step is to grab your pliers and grab onto the end cap of the hub, hold the cassette down so nothing flies off, and give it just a little pop. You might have heard that. And then you're just going to take the whole Freehub body off. Now, what you're going to find inside of a DT Swiss hub, you're going to have two springs. One is outboard. Pay attention, the larger end of the spring, it's kind of cone shaped. The larger side of the cone goes towards the cassette. And it's going to be the other way around on the other side. The larger side of the cone is going to go towards the middle of the hub shell, like towards the brake rotor. So, spring on your towel, and then you'll have a set of star ratchets. There's actually two here. If you're doing a star ratchet upgrade, this would be the time that you would replace that. So I'm going to use a little pick. You could use a small screwdriver, it doesn't matter, and pick this other spring out. And then there's a sleeve on the hub that you may or may not be able to take out. There it goes. It's kind of a tight fit. You want to make sure that this goes back on, or else your hub is going to bind, your Freehub will bind when you put it back together. So now it's fully disassembled, pretty easy. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to spray a little bit of that carb cleaner onto my cloth, and I'm going to clean these surfaces. Again, you have bearings here. You have a bearing here. You don't want to spray degreaser, just jet it right in there because you're going to dissolve the grease inside of your bearings. So I'm going to spray some on my rag and I'm going to clean these parts off. In this case, because of the teeth on the star ratchet, it can be very useful to have a toothbrush handy for this, to get into those little grooves, to get into those teeth. A toothbrush works really, really well for that. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that before I coat everything in grease again and put it back together. Okay, so I did take this sprayer, since we're dealing with solid parts here, not bearings. You can give it a little spray like that, and then I'm just gonna go around each one really quickly. Again, these are in pretty good shape, and there's not, you know, dust or water or anything inside of these, so I'm just gonna give them a quick brush to get any grease boogers, anything like that out. You can see these are starting to look silver now instead of black. Same thing with these little coils, little springs. I'm just gonna give them a quick wipe off here just to get the grease boogers off. Same with the sleeve. Just give it a little twist on the inside and the outside with your towel. And we are ready to reassemble. So what I'll do first is, I'm going to take this glove off because it is real greasy. I'm just going to get some of this special grease on my finger, and I'm just going to give it a little rub around the teeth. You don't need it to glob up in there too much. Same thing around the outside here. You can wear gloves for this if you don't like getting greasy, but I don't really like wearing gloves, obviously. Take a little bit more, get the other one. Just takes a thin coat. A little around the outside. And I'm going to take this sleeve and just run the excess grease around the inside just so it gets a thin coating of grease on it. Again, it does not need globs of grease. And now we're ready to put this all back together. So, remember, large part of the spring goes towards the hub shell. Drop that down in there, make sure that it's evenly seated, that it's not sitting up crooked or anything. I'm going to take my sleeve, slide that down, make sure it goes inside the spring. Take one star ratchet. These are not, there's not an inside and an outside, so just either one. And I'm going to push it down in there, make sure that it meshes with the teeth inside of the hub shell. Take my other star ratchet and put it teeth to teeth. So you don't want to put a smooth side down. You want smooth side towards the spring, teeth up, and then teeth down so that the teeth mesh with each other. And then your little second spring is going to go small side towards the star ratchet. So you're always putting the small side of this spring towards the star ratchet, no matter which spring you are installing. So I'm going to take my cassette, which I have wiped out, and I'm going to slide this back down. Same as last time, I'm going to give it a turn so that everything lines up and seats, and then push that down and give it a little tap just to make sure that it's seated. And you can, you know, if you can move the wheel around by holding the cassette, you know that's seated. If it pops back off, you need to tap it back down again. Make sure that it's aligned properly. This is held on with a small O-ring, and if that O-ring gets damaged, it will just fall on and off. So if you have a problem with your hub, with the end and the whole free hub just falling off, then that little O-ring needs to be replaced. But that's it. I'm going to let you hear this. Hopefully you can. Maybe last time you heard it before I started and now you can't hear it, but that's just DT Swiss. Their hubs are super quiet. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you can, help me out, subscribe to the channel, and like this video, comment on the video. The more interaction we get from our users and from our fans, the better off we do as far as YouTube recommending us to more people. So give us a hand, like the video, subscribe, comment, even if it's just like a thumbs up comment or something like that. Everything helps. We really appreciate your support and appreciate you watching.